and welcome to another episode of The Billy Ho Show. Before we get started, back in the day we used to go roller skating, and there were two places we went. The first was the deluxe skating rink at the top of Khyber Pass Road, and as kids, all us kids went there and we clamped on the skates. You hired the skates and they clamped onto your shoe. The professionals or the rich kids had boots with the skates already on them, a little knob thing on the front so you could slow yourself down. But it was a great afternoon, started at 1 o'clock and finished about 3 I think, but you skated round and round and had a pretty good time. And the other one was up at Reeses, an outdoor skating ring, and here's a photograph of me by the fence and other kids skating around in Reeses. And that was great fun. I don't know if you remember those days. I just remember those clamp-on skates, little clips that just clamped onto your shoe. Now back in the day I also had 2 motorbikes. The first one was in 1961. I bought an NZ, a motor scooter from Whakatane. When I worked at the Matahina board mills, I had enough money to buy the scooter, and so I went to Whakatane and bought it. And I had a lot of fun on it, learned to ride it from the time I got to Whakatane back to Matahina. I was riding it, and you had to go across some pretty dusty roads and what have you, but anyway, that was the first one. And the second one was a 1961 Tiger 110 bathtub, and that bathtub was actually quite rare in that people thought it looked more like a scooter than a motorbike, so they took the bathtubs off and they just rusted away in places. So to find one that's still got a bathtub is actually quite rare. So in this episode we're going to do exactly that. We're going to take a look at some old motorbikes. So let's go and talk to some old motorbike dudes. What we're going to do in this show is have a look at some classic motorbikes, vintage motorbikes, classic motorbikes, and what they're going to do is they're actually going to be running for about 30-40k on a bit of a run. The oldest bike here is about 1903 or 4, a very old motorbike. You'll see names that are familiar, Triumph, AJ and all those sorts of names, Matchless. And we're going to talk to a few of the people. All these guys are passionate about their motorbikes, and we'll find out a bit about that passion. We'll start with Melville Reeses' 1914 Rover motorcycle. Rover started in the late 1800s making bicycles and started developing their motorcycle in 1902. In fact, between 1903 and 1924, they produced over 10,000 motorcycles. So let's have a chat with Melville. With me is Melville, and welcome to our little show.
Thank you.
Melville, and I have to say I've never seen a motorcycle like this before in my life.
Have you not?
No, well, not this particular make, but anyway, so it says on the front here, it says 1914 Rover.
Yep.
Is that the Rover Motor Company?
Rover Motor Company. They made them before they went onto the cars.
Oh, okay.
And
1914. Now things are starting to sort of get a bit ugly in Europe around about 1914. And were these sort of anything to do with the military after this time?
I don't think so. I don't really know, to tell you the honest truth.
Sure. Now we'll start at the front and work back, and just looking at the light here, it looks like it runs on a acetylene. Acetylene, and you put the acetylene in here, and the water in there, and it does the mix. Yeah.
And away she goes.
Yep.
You hope.
Yep.
And this is down, and we tail light at the back there too.
So it runs the same.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then we come to the handlebars, which are, I guess at the time this is how they were.
Yeah, they're the original handlebars, and they are nickel plated.
Yep. And hanging off the handlebars, we start with this.
That's the
reverse levers.
This is a compression lever.
Yep.
You pull that up there, then pedal it. There's this gentleman here done.
Yep. And that's the brake.
That's the front brake.
Yep.
This brake.
Yeah.
That's your spark control.
Oh, righto.
Yeah. Yep. And that's your chokes, more or less. It's just a float up and down in the carburetor. Sure. And your throttle.
So if I'm you're riding this with your thumb.
Yeah.
So there's no twisting.
No twisting. That's the only control you got. Yeah.
And these are just sight glasses so you can see how much fuel. Is it a reserve fuel, or is this all you've got?
That's all you got, yes, and oil in that one.
Oh, okay.
And fuel in that one.
So what is this thing?
And that one pumps the oil into the motor.
A little bit of
yeah. When you start, you have her in that top gear there, and pull your compression lever up, and then you take her into neutral, and then second, and then low, or starting low and then come back and into the other ones.
Okay.
You put it up and stand and pedal it. Do you realise that? To start it.
Oh, okay.
You pedal it, you put it into the top gear and then get up there and...
So, I don't know why that idea didn't go away. I mean, it's better than kicking it. You know, plonk, 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 and you just pedal it, and that's you can actually do that longer than you can do this.
Yeah. When you hold the compression lever up and then you let it go and hope it starts.
Yeah. I'll give it a go. Or you just... Oh, but you've got to do it by... Oh. Can I hop on it? Yeah. Oh, no, get me bloody leg over that thing. No, it's all right, I'll come from the other side.
Graceful.
Thank you.
Pity he's not a woman. Oh, I shouldn't have said.
Here we
Now,
go.
to get it to go, you hold that right up there.
Yep,
And you put it into the high cog.
yep. And away we go
Then you
with
pedal it. It won't start.
No. But
Not easy. Too big a man.
yeah, my bloody legs. Anyway, that was an idea. Let me bloody get off that. Fair enough.
What happened?
So we discovered that it's
not
not built.
started.
It's not built for guys who are 6'4".
It's got a 3-speed hub gearbox in the hub.
Yep. Now it runs on a magneto. There's no
Yep.
battery.
No.
Do they give you much trouble?
Well, that one hasn't, unless it gets wet.
Oh, okay. So driving around in daylight today
Yeah, it's not good.
not good.
No. Yeah, I've owned it for about 63 years.
63 years.
Yeah, I bought it, found it on a farm when I was driving on North Canterbury Transport in Rangiora, and brought it home and was going to do it all up. Then the kids started arriving, so it's got stuck into a box on a trailer and it stayed there till 1980.
Wow. So then you had time to work on it.
Yeah, and I was driving a school bus up to then. I started doing a few wrong things, so I chucked that in and got the old bike out and got it going.
Good on you. No. So
So that's yeah. So
are these the original little tool bags you put on the back
the
here?
original boxes, yes, but
Yep.
the leather has been remade.
The mudguard, is that how the mudguard was?
Yeah, that's the original mudguard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's got a bit of style about it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I say, they've only got small bits to make it different to other bikes.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just amazing. And while this was being built, do you think these people knew about what was going on in America?
I would say so, yeah. Yeah.
Because the Americans are they're all their Harleys and
Yeah,
the Indians
yeah,
have all got the same.
Same big handlebars, isn't it?
But what amazes me is how all this technology is going on in Europe and in England and in America and other places around the world. People are thinking up different, even the Japanese are thinking up different ways to make engines.
Yeah.
But none of them are talking to each other because there's no phones, there's no faxes, no anything.
Yeah.
So all the ideas are in everybody's head around the world.
Around the world,
And
yeah.
they're just building it, and that just amazes me how that actually works.
But those old engines have been around a while, that sort of, haven't they?
Yeah. But the flutes, they're all made just to get a bit of wind through them to keep them cool.
Yeah, no, she's good.
Yeah.
Quite a good old thing to ride too.
Yeah. So I admire your passion, Milburn. I just think that's just amazing to sort of find this in a tip somewhere, or and then bring it all back together.
Yeah, I had a lot of help with it, mate.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you got a bit of help from your friends. Yeah. Anyway, mate, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
And there you go, Melbourne, folks, and this wonderful Rover motorbike.
Thank you.
On Saturday, November the 6th, we leave for another Bill Hohepa Old Truck Tour of New Zealand. We leave from Auckland and make our way to Wellington, cross over on the ferry to the South Island and continue down all the way to Richardson's Museum in Invercargill. Then we travel up the coast all the way to Wakefield and on to Rockville. All this and looking at old trucks as we go, as well as seeing a fair bit of New Zealand. We have 12 places available and people will travel by minibus. So if you have an ex-truck driving dad or granddad or somebody you know, maybe this special trucking holiday treat will be just the ticket. Maybe a Father's Day surprise. If you'd like to find out more, just go to my Facebook page, Bill Hohepper's 2021 Old Truck Tour, and all the details are there. Or just email me at billhohepper@extra.co.nz. What I've got here is a copy of Talking Trucks. This is a book I wrote a couple of years ago, and it's the history of New Zealand trucking. And it's all from the programs that I did between 2013 and 2016. I'm going to let this go for $25. So it's a special. So if you'd like your copy, there's my phone number, 027 277 0717. Just send me a text or email me, billhohepper@extra.co.nz to get your copy. $25 and the history of New Zealand trucks. Milburn Lime, every time. Milburn Lime, available all over the Southland district and beyond. Top grade lime that's been available year after year. Call them on 03 417 8228. The next time you need lime, think Milburn Lime, every time. Folks, every now and again we come across something that's really fabulous and completely sort of unusual, I would say. But Ken, welcome to our little show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to meet you, Bill.
It says Indian on the side there.
Well, yeah. People always ask me what is it and where did it come from and who made it. Basically, I've got rid of quite a few of them now, but I had quite a fleet of Indian 4-cylinders, and you know, an imaginative mind and
Sure.
trying to kill the boredom, I thought I needed to make a V8. So I've styled it on Indian 4 technology. So initially the idea was you could take a photo from the side and think it was an Indian 4, and if you went around the other side you'd think, oh,
There's another Indian 4.
It's just a reverse photo, you know.
Yeah.
But it's all brand new castings. Most of the major castings were done in Castlemaine in Australia, just because I had a good friendly pattern maker guy over there.
Sure.
I machined all the bits except for the crankshaft, conrods and the gears and the gearbox at home, and I've only got manual machinery like mills and lathes.
Yep.
I didn't go down the road that most people go down where they pay somebody to do it on a CNC machine, because for me it was the engineering challenge I wanted. I never intended to make the most practical motorcycle, I just wanted an engineering challenge.
Sure.
It took me about 3 years on the engine, just in spare time. I got it going and I popped it into a standard fully restored 1936 Indian 4 I had. I just pulled the motor out, put this one in, ran it, so it'll fit into a standard frame without any frame modifications. And I rode it like that for a while, and then I thought, I've got to carry on and build a bike. So I spent the last year or so just making a frame and all the other bits to make a bike, and styling it slightly earlier, which is what I like. And yeah.
So are you running it on a mag system or?
No, it's got 2 distributors, one each side.
Yep.
Both the points are in one distributor, so all the timing is done in one distributor.
Sure.
It's 2.6 litre, which is basically just same bore and stroke as the standard Indian 4-cylinder, but doubled up. When I first got it going, I ran it on twin carbs, and it was pretty hopeless. So I fuel injected it, and yeah, and it went really good, but I just didn't like the modern technology. So I've gone back to a single carburetor up in the middle, a bigger one, and it's, well, so far I only fired it up again on this setup on Thursday afternoon for the first time, and then chucked it on the ute and put it down here. So
We'll watch this thing being fired up, folks. Just take a look at this, and then we'll come back to Ken. Just looking at the style of what you've done here, obviously with the handlebars coming right round, that's the style of the time.
I was
or
trying
do you
to
like them this?
Well, both. I was trying to style it like a 1928 Indian Ace bike, but I've just poetic licence because I could.
Yes.
So it's a cross between an Ace and an Indian, because Indian bought out the Ace motorcycle company and then started making Indian 4. So this has got Ace forks, but it's sort of a bit of poetic licence as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they tell me the difference between a Harley and an Indian is the throttles on opposite sides.
It can be.
Oh, okay, so it's
well,
not necessarily true.
If you want to win a trivia bet, apart from 1927 and 28, all Indians left the factory with the throttle on the left, but you could get them retrofitted. And the way to tell is if the gear lever's on the left, I've usually got the throttle on the right.
Oh, okay.
So I have put the throttle on the right. I mean, I might be stuffed in the head for making it, but I don't want to be totally stuffed in the head and right unco as well.
So how many gears have you got running
Just
it?
three.
Three?
It's the
Well,
gearbox is pretty much standard design of a four-cylinder Indian, but obviously because the gearbox is a bit of a weak link, I've just improved design. I've put all multi-splines in there instead of core splines, and I've put needle roller bearings instead of bushes. It's got shell bearings on the crank instead of white metal, all of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only other V8 bike I've seen is called Boss.
Oh, yep.
You know, modern machine. But you sit on this thing and you've got this great big,
Yeah.
you know, it must be just, I mean, when you ride this, you know, does it feel
This is actually nicer and cooler to ride than a standard Indian 4.
Wow.
An Indian 4 has the cylinders vertically, but the exhaust manifold sticks out the side. Admittedly, I've moved the footboards out each side about 3 inches.
Sure.
But I've only ever ridden this bike with shorts on, and it's much cooler to ride than an Indian 4 with jeans on. Yeah, when you stop, you get a bit of heat wafting up.
Yep.
It's got phenomenal torque, like just phenomenal. And a standard Indian 4, I don't want to create any rift amongst Indian 4 owners, but they're about 35 horsepower. I've had this thing on the dyno, and last time it was on the dyno, we were getting 98 out of it. Horsepower and about 100 foot-pounds of torque.
Shit.
Yeah.
Now tell me, how do you stop it? I mean, it's got a good braking. You've got good brakes.
Well, at the moment, it hasn't even got a back brake because I haven't finished building it. But I might be a bit.
What do you want brakes for? Sit down that way.
I mean, you know, I'm a bit weird, but I always work on the theory that sleeping brakes are overrated. But no, I put an 8-inch brake on the front and an 8-inch brake on the back, and yeah, I mean, it's still an old bike. It's still old technology, so it's not going to do, you know, stupid stuff with it.
No.
Yeah.
Can I admire your passion? You know, sort of to wake up one day and think, I'm going to build a V8.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, do that, and just do it.
Yeah, well,
You know, you've got to take your hat off to you, mate. It's just now just backing back to fuel injection.
yeah.
Do you no idea when fuel injection sort of started? Well, I'll just tell you for why. We saw a Japanese engine built in 1918 that was fuel injected.
Oh, yeah, mechanical injection. Yeah.
So it just sort of tells me that there's nothing new.
No, nothing.
I mean, you know, sort of common rail diesel, 1903. You know,
I know. Yeah, all we've done is improve it and make it better. Well, I haven't done a lot to improve this. It's still the old 30s technology because I didn't want to build a rocket ship. I just wanted an engineering exercise.
Yeah, good on you. Well, congratulations on that, mate.
Thank you very
And
much,
well
Will.
done. Here you go, folks. Something completely different. Well, one of the bikes of interest that we've found is this BSA Bantam. I just remember when I was a boy that the BSA Bantam was a very popular little bike around Auckland. People, you know, students and people like that going to the university and the college and places like that. And you see the odd ones doing a long distance, passing it on the road. But mind you, everybody's rolling on the road at 40 miles an hour or something, and I guess this did that. And we saw you yesterday as we were travelling around the day's turned to custard a bit, people, it's raining, and you were fiddling with your carburetor. But you can.
Oh, for sure.
With you know, compared to a modern day bike, you can actually repair this on the side of the road. I just need a couple of screwdrivers, a small spanner, I guess, and a bit of ingenuity.
Just with a minimum of tools, they're fairly straightforward. They're basic engineering and normally relatively easy to keep on the road.
Yeah. Can you still buy parts and tyres and?
There's a strong following, I think, because they made so many Bantams. As you say, a very popular bike. You can buy a lot of parts, and there are a few enthusiasts around that sort of specialise in them. So they're becoming more and more popular as an entry-level bike into the vintage club, and they're starting to fetch good money. You know, years ago they were a bit of a budget. They were a cheap way to get into the scene, but now, you know, a good BSA Bantam, they're advertised now for 4,000 and more. You know.
Wow. What would this cost new? Probably a couple of hundred, well, 100, 200 pounds?
I would imagine so. When they were new, they were relatively affordable mode of transport.
Yeah.
And quite popular. They were nice and light and nimble, good in the traffic. They were popular with farmers. The sort of thing that if you were going hunting up in the hills, you could lift them over a gate and carry on.
Sure. Now, when you're talking about farmers, was there a farmer version of this?
They made several different types. There was they introduced the BSA Bushman, which was slightly more off-road friendly, higher ground clearance, knobbly tyres, that sort of thing. They became popular with farmers, as well as the students, those ride-to-work bike.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, just imagine a farmer sort of going down to race to round up the cows with this. What would he have done previous to that? Probably just gone down on the tractor or something.
I guess so. Horses or even older bikes. I think the beauty of the Bantam, they're generally very reliable, nice and light. You could get off and leave it idling and come back to it no problem at all. Nice and low, so they're easy to get off and on if you're wearing wet weather gear or muddy boots.
Yeah. Now, if you're a big farmer like me, I'll just sit on this, folks. Now, that doesn't look sort of ridiculous, does it? No. Yeah.
Hey, she's a good bike.
I just love the frame. The frame's been thought about, curved around the back there to house everything.
They're very minimalistic. There's nothing there that doesn't need to be there. And I think because they were the smaller end of the range for that year. I mean, BSA made an awful lot of motorbikes from years and years ago, the pre-First War, and they were one of the last English manufacturers still going.
Sure.
And they right up to 500s, 650s when this thing was made. And at 125 it was the baby of the range.
125.
But nice and light, I guess, relatively cheap and easy to manufacture, easy to export.
When people of my era got your licence, which you went down to the local transport agency, and a bloke in his brown joppers and white shirt and tie and a black jacket, and you sort of drove around the block with him sitting in it, and he came back out and he wrote your licence out, you know.
Yes.
And then he said, oh, and here's your moped. Would this be classed as a moped?
Well, no, I think probably a motorcycle.
More like 50 cc, I think.
Yeah, a moped or a step through. These are a motorcycle in every aspect really, albeit a small one. But even for a small bike, my sister rides that with her daughter on the back, and they can get along at a healthy 40, 45 mile an hour.
Right.
All day long.
They must be smaller than me.
Considerably. Me too.
Good on you. Milburn Lime, every time. Milburn Lime, available all over the Southland district and beyond. Top grade lime that's been available year after year. Call them on 03 417 8228. The next time you need lime, think Milburn Lime, every time.
The person in Lloyd was Walter John Lloyd, who originally was associated with the Quadrant. They were bicycle engineers, who were ordinary push bike engineers, and got into, in the turn of the 20th century, as putting in motors into push bikes. And from there they formed a company called Quadrant. In about 1907 they had a big split up. And the three directors went their own way, and Walter John Lloyd formed his own company called LMC. And it went till about 1923, so it was only in existence for about 15, 16 years. And as far as I'm aware, it was on his death that the company ceased. But a lot of the motorcycles that were being produced in England at the time all went kind of into closure around about the mid-1920s, and this was one of them.
Is that because they A, run out of money, or B, the technology passed them and they didn't want to, didn't catch up?
Certainly the second. American bikes started to become popular. This was made for the New Zealand, Australian, South African market, and and in around about 1920, these Harley Davidsons, like behind us here, became very popular with the tradesmen and so on, and bigger bike, bigger engine, more advanced technology. And after the war, these people, LMC produced a V-twin which never really took off, but they still had, you know, gas lamps.
So in order to ride this, you've got to be thinking about 4 things at once.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just don't start it, go off you go. No,
Well, I've had my other LMC, which is a sister bike to this, only 4 frame numbers away.
Yes.
I've had that since 1961 when I was only 19.
Wow.
And my father said to me, if I ever wanted to understand how a combustion engine works, get an old veteran motorcycle, because all they are is a piston on the end of a couple of flywheels, and you've got, you know, control for your ignition there, and your air and your petrol over there, and that's all you need. So extremely simple. And so anybody wanting to know how to how a internal combustion engine works,
there it is.
Yeah.
Simplicity itself. Everything in here seems to be, it's in stages. So this is the electrics.
That's what they call a boom box. It's the first attempt at a muffler, and they had that control there. It opens and closes. So they had a town, a bit like engine brakes on trucks. You had to close them down going through the town. So you had a foot control on that to shut it down to stop too much noise as you went through the town. But they, the following year, they started to put a proper exhaust pipe on.
Yes.
So the exhaust gases came out the far side, and both sides actually.
Sure. Yeah.
And but now, and you'll see on these 1915, 16 bikes that they start to get a proper exhaust pipe on, and later on they start to get a muffler. You know.
And that leather belt, I haven't seen a belt like that before.
No, this bike's got what they call a 2-speed countershaft, and countershafts were vogue after the pedal assist bikes. About 1911, 1912, they started to go into Sturmey Archer hub gears like on a push bike.
Yes.
And then makers tried these countershaft gears, which is basically chain drive for first gear on the far side.
Yes.
And the belt drive for top gear. And there's a clutch either side in there and over there, and they're identical. And what they do, you won't see it here, but what they do is they're basically a bronze ring with a wedge in it, and as I chop between one and the other, I select whichever side the wedge I was on. It just grabs it spreads the bronze ring, and if I want top gear, it'll select the little wedge, and the bronze ring will grab that side and drive if I want first gear, it's the little clutch, the same identical clutches. So. Yeah, so that's how and then from there they started. You'll see the 1916 Triumph's got a proper 3-speed gearbox. As we start to become more familiar.
Sure.
So we're still in that transition stage.
So things are evolving. That's right. And how complicated is your settling water?
Well, you put your carbide. You buy it in lump form.
Yes.
From a chemical place, and you put it in the bottom container. Fill this with water in here, and this is your regulator. So you set how many drips per minute you want, and it'll drip down, create acetylene gas, and through to the headlight.
And you just throw a match at that, and away you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at photos, looking at bikes in museums, and saying, well, how would you put a sidecar together? So I put it together, and had fun doing it, because as you can see here, when I first put it, I thought, it must go straight across. And when I went straight across, the sidecar was tracking away up there because I'd forgotten that tapers in. It goes around the belt drive and tapers in. Yes. So about 3 attempts with my engineer, we worked out, finally got the angle right, that it's got the right toe in, because they meant to toe in slightly. So that's been a bit of fun and games.
Well, there you go, folks. What a magnificent example of an LMC, and if you've never seen one before, there it is.